Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for another live episode of Support is Sexy. I am super excited to have my sister here, Trey Anthony. Trey, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, girl. Or Elayne, I should be more official.
No,
But
it's
yeah,
okay. It's okay.
thanks for having
Excellent.
me, girl.
So, everybody, I'm going to tell you about Trey and then we're going to jump in. You can ask questions as always, whether you're watching this live with us right now in real time, or you're watching it later, or you're listening to it later on the podcast. This is going to air on the podcast as well. Trey and I are here to answer your questions if we can. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about Trey before we start. So, Trey Anthony is not only my friend, she is a visionary creator who uses the unique blend of comedy, theater, motivational talk, and her own life experiences to inspire and lift others. Trey's sold out hit play, The Kink in My Hair, grossed millions and broke box office records across Canada, the US, and England after it premiered in 2001. It was named one of the top 10 plays in Canadian theatrical history and received 4 NAACP Theatre Awards, including Best Playwright. In 2007, Trey adapted The Kink in My Hair for the small screen, making her the first African Canadian woman to create, write, and produce a primetime television show on a major Canadian network. Go, Trey! Since then, she has written for the Oprah Winfrey Network, Lionsgate, Woolpacker Media, the Comedy Network, and CTV. In January 2021, Trey released her book, Black Girl in Love with Herself, with Hay House Publishing. The book details Trey's inner struggles to meet the demands of her family and the societal pressures of living up to the image of the strong Black woman, which we're going to talk about. And now I'm always excited to talk to Trey because it's always a good kiki and a great time. Today, though, I'm excited to tell you that she's bringing Black Girl in Love with Herself to us with a live tour. Her last stop is here in Atlanta, where I am. So I'll be going to the show this Thursday, August 25th. And we have a link in the content here, in the description here, the caption, where you can go click to get tickets. And if you use the code CALM, CALM, you will get a special discount. And that is on Thursday, August 25th, here in Atlanta. See Trey Anthony live. Black Girl in Love with Herself. Everybody clap it up for Trey. Yay! Thanks for Trey. Thank you again so much for being here. You know, I always love to chat with you about what you're up to. So,
Thank
of
you. This will be
course, the
one, a good one.
a good one. The first question: what does it mean to be a Black girl in love with yourself?
You just came in for the kill, Elayne. You just came
What
for
is it
you're
talking
like,
about?
I ain't gonna warm you up. I would say to be a Black girl in love with herself is to be really, truly aware of that you are worthy of everything that you want, and to really do the work around the healing, to recognize the trauma, to be like really intentional about loving yourself first before you go out there and seek love from someone else. And my biggest thing that I say to a lot of women and the clients that I work with and people who follow me is let someone show up in your life and catch you loving yourself really well.
Hmm.
That's what being a Black girl in love with herself is. Yeah.
And how did you get to that point? I already know the journey, but tell everyone here, how did you get to? But I will say, I don't know if you all like this when you talk to even your closest friends, family, etc.,
Yeah,
and you find out something new. It's always like, oh, I didn't know that part. So
that
I'm
is
looking forward to listening to this. So tell us how you sort of got to this place where you realized that you had to fall in love with yourself before bringing in anybody else.
Well, for me, I was forced to. Like there was no two ways about it. I was definitely in a position where I found myself not loving myself, and I was on the bathroom floor. I had a 2 week old brand new baby. I had a partner who had just walked out on me. I was, like steps away from being quote unquote homeless because I had like less than 14 days to move out of the apartment. We were going into a pandemic. I had a book due to the publisher. The irony is not lost on me, telling Black women how to have a great relationship. And there I was, just like, what happened to my life? And for me, it was about really taking responsibility and saying this would be really easy to blame my mother, society, my ex, everybody else. But I had to say, wait a second, how did you end up here? What decisions did you make to get here? And so that's really what happened. I was forced to, because everything that was the markers of success in my life was taken away. Everything was taken away. And I truly believe God and the universe was like, the only way she's going to do the work that needs to get done is if we just knock her, just over her head. Like, it's like Oprah says, like, versus a little pebble that is thrown.
Right.
And then God just says,
Then like
what,
the wall just falls down.
let me just give her the brick. Right?
Right.
She ain't hearing. And for me, that's what happened. Like, the brick just came at my head and my head was rolling on the floor down the street. Right. So I was like,
Right.
okay, it's got to give. Yeah.
So how did you, with that visual of being on the bathroom floor, which always just touched my heart when you say that, what was the first step in picking yourself up? Because if anyone's listening or watching now or listening later who finds themselves in that sort of position, if you will, or feeling that way, where you feel either you feel pretty low or things that you thought were going to work out a certain way don't, or you're surprised by, a breakup. Trey and I have cried together and restored each other together through like, what happened? Why are we living the same life in different places? But whatever it is, what was the first step for you and
Yeah.
picking yourself up?
I'm going to be really transparent and really honest here, Elayne. Like, I can laugh about it now, and I would love to give these big, broad strokes, but I will tell you, when it first happened to me, I couldn't even say to myself, take it day by day. For me, it was the little things around taking it hour by hour. And what those little things consisted for me was like, okay, make your bed, feed your child, go out for a walk for 30 minutes, call a friend, book your therapy appointments, do get off all of social media because you don't need to be comparing yourself to anybody right now, right? And it was also just really getting in prayer and also making sure that I was writing down what I was feeling and just really acknowledging the hurt, right? And I think that's the one thing that I feel as Black women we do a lot is that we want to skip stages and be in the oh, I'm healed, I've gotten up stage. And for me, I had to give myself permission to actually sit in this and
Mm-hmm.
feel everything, because I was like, this is the only way you're going to be able to do the work that is required of you. And so, if I would say to anyone who's going through this right now, be patient with yourself, be tender, do not rush to the point where you could say, oh, here's my story, girl, here's my
Testimony.
story.
Right.
Right? You don't have to. You don't have to have that story, right? And you don't have to have the story of triumph yet. You gotta sit in the mess. And while you sit in the mess, you try and figure out how you got in that mess. And that what's what it was for me. Like, I also was very guilty of doing this, of jumping from one relationship to another if something didn't work, because somebody had to fill that hole within me. And I was very conscious of saying, no, we are not doing this again. We are not going to get into anything broken. You got to
Mm-hmm.
know yourself first and take the time. So it really is about getting the therapy, getting the help, and just really just looking back on your life and going, wait a minute, how did I get here?
Mm-hmm. How did I get here? I love that. And thank you, everyone. Martha, Vanessa, Sandy, and Sharika. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Thank you so much for weighing in. Let us know if you have any questions for Trey as we go along. Thank you for sharing that, Trey. And I think that's super a powerful reminder of, something my physical trainer actually says: you can't rush rest. Like we think I'm going to rest real quick or rest for a few minutes. And then, sometimes that's all it takes. But sometimes your body will say, no, you actually need a full day of this, of rest. I feel from what you say, it reminded me like you can't rush healing.
You
Sometimes
can't.
we just want to get on the other side of it. And it's like, no, this is going to be a process.
Mhm. It's going to be a process. And you got to just, strap yourself up for the ride, because it's going to get bumpy and it's going to
Right.
get ugly, and there's going to be hills and there's going to be valleys. And also, on the other side of success, I will say, because now I feel I've done so much work and I feel I am definitely not the woman I was 2 years ago, but there are days, right? And there are moments that you regress and you remember, or somebody will come in your life and God will put somebody in your life to remind you, and you're like, oh, this feels a little
Like, are you
familiar.
going to fall for this again? Exactly.
And so you have to remind yourself and go, no, 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 no. That was the old me. The old me would think this is okay. But the new me is like, no, I recognize this flag and I'm no longer going down this path with you. right?
Yeah, yes, I agree. And I think I've experienced that as well. Like I think, okay, well, I've evolved now, or I've come out of that, or I've et cetera. But it's not like those situations are going to come up again. I still at my core, I'm not going to project this on you. I still at my core am who I am. I just have to learn how to make decisions, different decisions in those moments, or know that this is not good for me. Or if I do it this way, it's not going to turn around. Or I'm not ready. I've had situations recently where I'm like, I'm not ready to have that conversation yet. Like I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm not ready to have it. I'm going to fall back into my old ways if I do it. So I'm just going to protect myself, and everybody else will be influenced or impacted by my poor decision making, right? But it'll help us make different decisions, or hopefully healthier decisions. It sounds like what
Healthier decisions, yes, yes, and
you're
be more conscious of the decision, because sometimes we make a conscious decision to do something that you know ain't really good for
saying.
you.
I know, right? Like
And
I'm
you're
gonna
like,
do it
you know
anyway.
what? I just feel I'll go do it right now. Right? And I'm honest. Like I've been there, especially dating. Sometimes I'm like, Trey, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not going to commit the whole way this time,
Let's just see.
but I can do a little fun
Right,
dates, right? Fun
right,
dates, yeah, yeah. But I know this ain't my person, but I'll go do a little fun date.
right. Exactly. So tell us then. So you have the book, which I meant to bring everyone. I have copies around here. Of course, I didn't bring one to put next to me, but Trey's book, Black Girl in Love with Herself. Tell us then how you went from writing the book to deciding, I'm going to take this show on the road.
Yeah, as you know, Elayne, because both of us came out with books in the pandemic,
Yeah.
right? In
Hmm.
2021. And you know, writing a book is a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And I had it in my mind that I was going to have this amazing book tour. My publisher would be behind me, and I would, be hand handshaking everybody, kissing babies, everything else, right? And it wasn't that, right? Because the pandemic, we had to do a lot of stuff online. We had to do a lot of interviews online. And then once the pandemic was over, like I called my publisher and I was like, okay, well, let's get started now. And they basically were like, no, that ship has passed, right?
Which is,
And
we could do a whole other show about that,
right, a
right?
whole other
The realities of working with a book publisher,
yeah,
right?
I was like, wait a second, but no. And then I was also having so many women who were reaching out to me saying, your book has changed my life. I can't wait to meet you. When is this book tour? And I also, on a whole, I've been a producer of live events, right?
Right.
And so for me, it was once somebody tells me no, and I know it's something that I really want to do, I then just buckled up and said, okay, well, if they're not going to stand behind this, I know what I want to happen. And there was also, at the risk of sounding woo, right? There was also this small voice in me that I truly believe was spirit led that said, this is your purpose. This
Mm.
is your intention. And it's not just about a book, it's about creating safe spaces for Black women to heal, and you need to create that safe space that they can heal in a group with a crowd of people and know they're not alone. And I just went with it. Like I just said, okay, God, this is what I'm supposed to do. And I put my own money in it. And it's by far, it's not a moneymaker by any means, right? If we break even, this is really one of these acts of love and labor, right? Really and truly. But I'm in my element and I
Mhm.
know this is what I'm supposed to do. And that's how it came about for me. Like I was also, and then I was also working with a life coach at that time where I said to her, well, I'm a writer, I'm a producer, I also do comedy, I also do theater. And I said, I love all of these things, but I got to choose one. And she
Mhm.
was like, why do you feel you have to choose one? And I was like, well, everybody knows you got to focus on one thing, right? And she said to me, what would it look like if you could imagine this and you put every single thing that you love and that you're good at in one production? And that's when the idea just clicked in my head. And I said, I'm going to bring the book alive. And I'm going to bring it alive in theater. I'm going to bring it alive as a speaker. I'm going to bring it alive as a comedian. And it's going to be all of those things. And people are going to get a Trey Anthony show, what they're used to, but with a little bit of a twist to it. And so that's what
Mhm.
it was, just excitement of creating something new and a whole different dynamic, but putting all of the things that I love: comedy, theater, motivation, candid talk, dance hall music, all of those things, and saying, here's the show. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that advice from your life coach, because it's like all these things that you're into, but you put it in the one thing was that one production. right?
Yes.
Sometimes we think the one thing is choosing from the things. Like, how can all of this fit into that one thing? So
Yes.
you still came out with excellent. So what can hi Joseph, Shannon, Georgetta, everybody saying hi here to Trey. And again,
Hey.
everyone, we're talking to Trey Anthony, who is the author of the book Black Girl in Love with Herself and the producer, creator, performer extraordinaire of the live tour Black Girl in Love with Herself, which is coming to Atlanta this Thursday, August 25th. Atlanta, as we out of towners say it. Atlanta is how the locals say it. August 25th. And the link, I believe it's in the caption here. I'll make sure to add it to the comments after for you to get your tickets. And if you use the code CALM, CALM, there's a special discount for you. So, Trey, before I ask my next question, I'm going to read Vanessa's question. Vanessa Anderson Brown says, I love myself, but find myself trying to develop a relationship with an interesting male. However, I hide myself not physically, but emotionally and mentally due to my academic and life's accomplishments. Are you saying that you're playing yourself down some, Vanessa, if I understand that, which we all can relate to? I know it's not right, but what advice can you lend for me to balance my truth? So she says she hides herself not physically, but emotionally and mentally due to her academic and life accomplishments.
Mm.
So what can
That's
she do to show more of her truth?
I think, and I think sometimes we do that as women when we are uncomfortable sometimes with our greatness, right? And we sometimes really try and dim our own light
Mhm.
because we feel that somebody cannot handle our greatness. And if there's one thing that I've learned, it's a disservice to me and it's a disservice to someone I'm in a relationship when I choose not to stand in my power and my greatness because they may feel insecure by that. And what
Mhm.
I have learned now, that someone who is supposed to be in my life and right for me, or quote unquote my person, they are going to actually find ways to actually shine more light on me, right? Because they want me to be the best that I can be. And so I think that what you have to do is really just really sit with yourself and say, why am I trying to play small in order to gain the love of someone else? And that happened to me in my last relationship where I started doing this comparison game with myself and my partner. And I was just like, oh, well, she's obviously more better than me. She's actually got more money than me. I felt at that time that she was more prettier than me, more successful. And I started to just do this comparison game and started to shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink. And I realized I was like, wait a second, you are just as powerful, just as great. And why not you? Right? Don't
Mhm.
be in awe of anybody but yourself. Right? And if you walk around with that level of confidence, you will attract the right person. Right? So do not shrink for anyone, girl. Right? You've worked damn hard. Just name it and say, this is who I am. And the right person will be like, ooh, I want to be around that. I really
Yeah.
want to be around that.
Amen. Vanessa, you hear that? Vanessa say yes, ma'am. I think she was saying yes, ma'am, that we were on target with the question. So hopefully you feel yes, ma'am, with the answer as
Yeah.
well. Martha said, well said. Sharika said, say that. April said, hello. That title is everything. Hi, April.
Thank you.
April's one of your Jamaican sistren.
Yeah, what a guad, April.
Vanessa, I hope that helps. And like I said, thank you for sharing that question and honestly that truth, because I've been there where I'm like, what is going on? I don't know. And then I realize I'm literally shrinking, like shrinking back as this person steps forward, and then emotionally and just not feeling like your full self. And as Marianne Williamson famously said, right, your playing small does not serve the world.
Doesn't serve anybody.
Does
No.
not serve the world, certainly does not serve any relationship that you're in, because you'll never feel like your full self. And as I said, I've been there, and I started telling myself I should never have to shrink so that someone else could feel like a giant.
Ooh, that should be a t-shirt and a cup. Okay? That's all I'm saying.
Right?
Or a book.
Or a book.
I'm just saying, Elayne. I'm
I'm
just
just
saying, girl.
saying.
Just saying.
I know. I'm telling you. Vanessa said, thank you so very much for sharing your thoughts with me. I truly appreciate this forum. Excellent, Vanessa. April said, Watagwan. That's it,
Yes. Oh, yes.
right?
Elayne, you've been hanging around us Jamaicans. And you're like, what a
I
guad.
always tell people my best friend is Jamaican, so I can say it.
There you go.
Excellent. Oh, good. So Trey, so tell us then, what can we expect when we show up for the Black Girl in Love? I'm assuming more of this, more of what you're giving us here, but what is it like in
Yeah.
the live experience? I can't wait to see.
Oh my gosh. Well, we have shown so much promo where you'll see women in the front row laughing hysterically, then crying, then saying this show has changed their lives. And we go deep, like it's one of those shows that I say to women, we are not going to sugarcoat it for you. I talk about our relationships with our mothers. I talk about the strong Black woman. I talk about vulnerability. I talk about our relationship with God. I talk about how we pick and choose partners that look the same over and over again with just a different name and maybe a different location, right? I talk
Right.
about our relationship with our bodies, how we look physically, right? What things we have heard around our own families that have made us feel like. I remember, like, there's one part in the actual show where I talk about the whole thing around just beauty, right? And I talk about, like, it's in the book where I said how my grandmother used to always say to me, well, thank God you're smart. You're very smart. Nobody can take away your brains from you. But as soon as you turn 18, we're going to fix that nose, right? And we're going
Mm.
to fix that mouth, right? And so for so many years, I walked around with this feeling of not feeling pretty and not feeling good enough, right? And I also talk about how my family would always say to me, like, get back up, or they were giving me these pep talks. And I said, I come from a family of resilience, but I don't come from a family of tenderness, right?
Mm.
So is it a surprise then that I pick partners who would be super critical of me, partners that I would not expect to give me anything back emotionally, right? And that partners who I felt were quote unquote better than me, right? Because I come from that and that feels familiar. So in the show, I talk to women to say, we need to really look at our patterns and also recognize how what we have in relationships pretty much mirror what we had in our own childhood growing up, right? And that is, for a lot of us, some level of dysfunction in that, right? And so we go through all of that in the show. We talk about it. There's a lot of talk and response. People can ask questions. I actually bring it to life with theater. We have the actors there. We have me reading from the book. There's comedy. There's a lot of interaction. And people are just like, this is the most honest and transparent show I've ever seen, because I called it the shameless tour, because I'm no longer holding shame around these things in my life, because shame brings around a level of silence. And what happens is when you don't release shame, it internally starts to eat you up, right?
Right.
And so I'm no longer holding shame, right? And I always say to women, listen, man, I got dumped, right, in a very public way. I had a 2-week-old baby. I was practically homeless, right? I was running out of money, all of the things that should have been reshaped. I was also labeled depressed in all of this as well. So I'm just like, what else can go wrong? And I always say to women, look at me. And here I am. And I'm standing and I'm thriving. But it was because I no longer held onto the shame that was allowing me to make these choices and stay in things where I had no place being
Mm.
anymore.
Whew. Beautiful, Trey. I had to take a deep breath after that one. I think that just what you said is for everyone to make sure you hear about the shame too, because just because we ignore it or hide it or all the ways that we try to keep it under wraps doesn't mean that it doesn't go away. I think your point is so real about it being internal, which is actually eats away from us, our mental health. It can affect our physical health, all these other ways that certainly affect our behaviors. So we have to kind of face that shame and get support. All about support around
Yes.
here.
Support.
Get
Yes.
support. Support is
Support,
sexy. All
support.
about
Yes.
that. Martha said that was a teachable moment for sure. I think when we were talking about playing small. Thank you, Martha. And Joseph said, "This is great. Are there any dangers to be aware of when shifting away from playing small?" I have an answer for one that I know comes up. If you want to answer, Trey.
No, go ahead. You tell me yours, and then I'll
Well,
jump.
okay, so one I know, Joseph. Sometimes, oftentimes when I either say playing small or also when you create boundaries. I actually did a video about this recently. When you
Mm.
create new boundaries in your life, the people around you, closest to you in relationship, family, whoever, have to get used to the new you. And people don't always like getting used to the new you when they're used to you being the old you, whether they're conscious of it or not. You have to be conscious of it. So when you start not playing small anymore, not shrinking anymore, you might notice, Vanessa, this for you too. You might notice that relationship might shift some, if not fall apart. I mean, we hope nothing falls apart that you want to keep together, but you just realize that, oh, I've become a different person, more aware of myself, more confident in myself, more of who you are. Everyone doesn't always respond to that in the same way. So I don't know if I would say there's a danger, but I do think to be aware of that it's if you're changing and evolving, everybody can't necessarily come with you. Everybody's not necessarily ready. So that's
Yes.
what I've noticed.
That's a huge one. And I think it's around too because so many people have benefited from you either playing small or being a
Mm.
people pleaser, right? And fixing their lives, you know? And so for me, even recently, one of my newest things that I say to people, because I'm so used to if someone friends or family or someone has a problem, I'm like, okay, let me fix this for you. Or how can I, this is what I think you should do. And so for me now, when friends call me or ask for things, sometimes now my newest thing that I say, the old me would never say this. I say, I do not have the emotional capacity to deal with this right now for you, right? And I can't hold this for you right now. And that has been something that has led to a lot of fallouts in family and friends because they are so used to me dropping everything to fix things for them. And I'm just like, I can no longer do this now. Just recently, someone who I'm interested in, who I'm hoping something will come out, they were in this kind of state and frenzy. And I immediately, like, I was like on the phone and I was listening to them and I was trying to figure it out. And then I was like, oh, maybe you should do this, maybe you should do that. And then I got off the phone because I could feel myself getting into this frenzy
Mm-hmm.
that had really nothing to do with me, right? And then the next day I called her and I said, I realized what I should have done is just listened. There was no need for me to come up with any kind of solutions for you. And I said, that is me, who I am in general, about being a fixer in people's lives. And I don't want to start this dynamic between us at all. I said, what I can do is I can listen, but I'm not going to be a counselor, a therapist, and all of those things. I don't have the emotional capacity to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Simple as that.
What was
Because
her response like?
those are the cycles that I do in relationships, personal relationships, business relationships, everything. That's the role that I took on for so many years, and I'm no longer doing it.
And then you end up being the person burnt out, or you end up being the person resenting everyone else. And it's like, but they're like, but you said you wanted to help me. It's like you did this
Exactly.
for yourself.
Exactly.
What was her response like? Was she receptive?
She was like, yeah. She goes, okay, I get that. And she goes, yeah, I just wanted you to listen. But then you just ran
When
with it. Right.
one of the things that I say in relationships, especially when you're, and I've been that way too, but I've learned this again over time with therapy and personal development work and all this. I say shoulder or solution. So if someone comes
Oh,
to me with a problem or something, and right away you want to, because you want to have, it's your natural. If you're a helper, a supporter, I'm a supporter. So right away you think of ideas, and you might drop a few, but I always have to stop myself and ask the person, like if you asked her, shoulder or solution. So do you
I
need somebody
love
just to listen and lean on right now, or do you want me to jump in with some? What I do love adding your thing, if someone is asking you for, I do not have the emotional capacity to deal with that right now. Like that is very real. I love it. Joseph, let me say, Georgetta said, oh my God, yes, I'm feeling so motivated. Your transparency and genuineness is through the roof. God bless you. Oh, that was for
Oh,
you,
thank
Trey.
you. Thank you so
Beautiful.
much.
Martha said, my team had key takeaways from that session. Joseph said, gotcha, makes perfect sense. And Martha said, I've been there. You've been there, Martha,
Mhm.
right? So hopefully we're helping some fixers in here, some supporters.
Yes.
So
Yes.
Trey, what do you hope? What do you hope at the end of the tour? Well, two questions. What do you hope to take away for yourself at the end of the tour? Because I know this is the last stop. What will be, or is that something you might have to evaluate later? So I'll give you a pass if you're not ready to answer that. But what do you hope all of us as people who attend take away from the Black Girl in Love with Herself tour?
I really hope that women, especially Black women, know that we're not alone, right? And that we shouldn't get caught up in the curated version of people's lives that we see on Facebook. Recently I've been privy to another very high profile couple in the community who's broken up. And I just remember always looking at them going, oh my God, they're so amazing. They're so wonderful. And then now it's just gotten really ugly and very publicly ugly.
Mm.
And I'm watching it and I'm like, this is why you cannot be invested in people's lives and love on Instagram and Facebook. And you got to, and sometimes I know I'm guilty of that. So this is why I have now been really transparent about things where I'm not feeling good. Some days I have really low days. Some days I feel, not as pretty. Some days as a mom, I'm just like, who the hell signed up for this shit? Right? And then there are days you see me at Paw Patrol with my kid and everyone's like, oh my God, you're such a good mom.
Right.
Right? But nobody sees when I'm driving and I'm racing to try and get him to daycare. And I'm like, oh, for God's sake.
Right. Right. I think you did one video where you were like, we never make it on time. I don't know what's
We never make it on time to take it. No matter what time. I could get up from 3:00 in the morning. We never make it. Like the school, I think they just look at me and just like, just leave her alone.
Right. Just like she made it. That's what counts.
She made it. She tried her best. But I try to be really honest with people, and I think that's what the show provides is this level of honesty, because I get caught up in it. When I see other people's lives, I'm like, oh my God. And then I have to check myself and go, no, this is why people are called content creators, because they're creating what looks beautiful, right? And so I try my best to give a balanced picture as much as possible, and talking about one thing I've learned from the tour, we were talking about this before we went on. This has been amazing. And so many women have said to me, oh my God, I don't know how you do it. You do it all. And this is so wonderful. And you put on this tour. And I am going to create a video after going, I'm not doing it all, right? I am so not doing it all. The irony has not been lost on me that I'm creating a tour for Black women and self-love and taking care of themselves and resting. And at the beginning of the tour, I was that person, right?
And
right now, I barely have anything left, right? But I'm just like, I keep saying to myself, this is the last stop. And of course, I always give 110%. But this was a lot of work and I took on way too much than I should have. And that has been the lesson for me and again, it goes back to that superwoman complex for me, right? Of being like, oh, I want to prove to so many women that you can have it all. You can be a good mom and you could be like a professional businesswoman and you could produce your own stuff and you could be this boss babe and all of that kind of stuff. And I will tell you right now, you may have a minute of those moments, but you are not going to have 24 hours. Okay.
That's real.
And you are definitely not going to have a whole week, because there are some days I just get up and I was just like, oh my God, what have I done? This tour is a lot. And so I think it's around just knowing what you are able to handle. And also when a decision has been ego driven, instead of just being like, is this work that needs to be done and how much of it needs to be done now? Like, I think the smart me looking back now would have been like, just do Atlanta, chill out. Just do Toronto the following year, right? Then do Detroit, right? Then do LA. But no, Superwoman over here was like, I'm going to do all 4 cities back with a 2-year-old.
With a 2-year-old. With a 2-year-old.
With a 2-year-old.
Vibrant, bouncy, beautiful, never stop 2-year-old.
Never stop 2-year-old.
Never stop. Oh my God.
When he gets in the car, gets upset because he's missing his daily routine. He's missing his friends. He's missing, what is his stability. And so it comes out every single time I pack him up and put him on a plane. You best believe I am dealing with a 2-year-old who ain't happy about being on tour.
Right. First of all, he's going to give you the 2-year-old, what 2-year-olds do. There's that. And then he's adding on the frustration of that's very real. And I always appreciate you being so honest, as everyone has said here, and so candid, but it's so true about too, being conscious of if your decision is driven by ego or driven by purpose, driven by vision. And we all have been there. We make decisions. If it's not as big as going on tour or as taxing as going on tour, just thinking about even in our lives. But then would you say, Trey, as important is showing yourself some grace and saying, okay, I made this decision. Like you said, I got one more show to go. I'm in it now. I got one more show. I'm going to show up like I'm going to do, right? And then after this, mama's making better decisions, right? As related to this, like I've learned, okay, I needed to go through this. Now I'm going to show myself some grace, not beat yourself up for any of your decisions, for anyone listening. And then now you have more information for the next time.
Exactly. And you wouldn't know unless you've done it. Like that is the
Mm-hmm.
one big thing that I keep learning throughout my career, of things that have gone extremely well and things that need a little bit of work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's practice. I now know that if I'm going to do a tour again, maybe it's about doing 4 cities, but doing it like 6 months in between each one and each stop. There's no way that I needed to do a whole 4 city tour within 3 weeks, right? It just makes no sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
it's those kind of things where I've just really learned my lesson on some things and given myself the grace. Like today, it's funny, like I was in the mirror and I said to myself, I'm really proud of you because you
Mm-hmm.
did it. You did it. You did it your way. You could have sat there when the publisher said we're not giving you a tour and your time has passed and just been like, oh, okay, and grumbled about it. I said, but you did it. You actually took action because you knew that there was something more of you left to give to your audience around this book. And maybe it's not the way that you had seen it to work out, but it worked out in a way that now makes sense to a lot of people and to yourself, and you did it. And I think sometimes as women, we have to let go of what was the perfect ideal way for the ending and just say, maybe this is the way you should have gone because you needed to learn the lessons along that crooked and path, you know?
Beautiful. You did it. I'm proud of you, girl.
Thank
You did
you.
it. You doing it. I'm gonna be there, and I'll try not to be like that mom in the audience, like, yeah, right in the
Yes, I
middle of
want you to
speaking.
be that. I want you to be that. Listen, my love language is words of affirmation. So
Oh, good.
please.
Okay, good. You did it. I'm so proud of you for that, and just all that you do and how you show up and continue to show up and evolve. Even our conversations, even doing interviews like this, so you can see the evolution of where you are and how you're just better recognizing yourself and celebrating yourself. I just love to see that as well. And still being honest and candid about the stuff that's still messy, right? We all got our own still messy stuff. Martha said, yes, good for you. I'm proud of your work. You motivate others. Keep providing lessons learned. Very helpful. Thank you, Martha. And Sharika said, that's where I am in life. Parenting and a relationship is hard with a teen girl. God bless you, Sharika, with a teen girl. I've been a teen girl and I've seen a lot of them. With my friends who have kids who are teen girls, we are something else, right? So Trey, tell everyone again, everyone, I'll have the link in the caption, but Trey, tell everyone where they can catch you this Thursday. You can get Black Girl in Love with Herself book wherever books are
Yes.
sold. Make sure you do that. And the
Yes.
audiobook is
And the
also
audiobook.
available.
Yes,
Yes.
please do. I love the audiobook because there is an interview with my mom and sister on the audiobook
Yes.
as a bonus, which people really love. But we are going to be in Atlanta August 25th. Check us out, one night only. Bring your friends, bring what I've really loved, I've seen, and this is for Sharika. I don't know if you're in Atlanta as well, but so many women have been bringing their daughters to the show or bringing their moms to the show or bringing a pack of girlfriends to the show. And it's definitely a show that you're able to have conversations with those who are close to you and have really deep, transparent conversations with your loved ones. So, definitely come check it out. This is my last stop. And the way I'm feeling right about now, I feel that I'm probably not going to tour until this boy is in university.
He's two, by the way. He's two.
He's
We didn't
two.
mention that. He's
So
two.
if you don't see or hear from me again after this tour, just be like, she
She,
told us this was it.
exactly. Oh, I love it. And that's at the Riverside Theater. Is that the name
Yeah,
of the
the
theater?
Riverside Epic Theater. Yes.
Riverside.
It-
Yes.
it-
Excellent.
Yeah.
Trey, thank you so much. I love you. You're incredible. Oh, Sharika is in Atlanta. Excellent. When is it?
Girl,
This
bring you
Thursday.
in the teen girl. Bring her, bring her,
Yes, come,
bring her.
come. It's on Thursday. It'll be in the caption. If you don't see it there, I'll make sure the link should be there, Eventbrite, and you go there
Yes,
to get your tickets and use the code CALM, everyone,
yes.
CALM. Anyone watching this, anyone listening, I'm again putting it up on the podcast tomorrow, which will be Tuesday, August 23rd, and the show is August 25th. But you can find Trey anytime. Tell people where to find you on social media also.
You can find me under Black Girl in Love, also under LinkedIn, Trey Anthony. Facebook, I'm Trey Anthony, again, Trey Anthony. So you could find me. I'm everywhere. I'm not so good on Twitter, but definitely Instagram and Facebook. And I'm trying to get better around the whole Twitter thing. But, here we go.
Listen, we gotta listen. We gotta pace ourselves. I'm on Twitter, but not active. I say I'm not active there right now. I'm
Yeah.
loving
Oh,
LinkedIn
that
right
sounds
now.
good. Yes. I do
Right. I'm
not
not
have the
active there right
emotional capacity for
now.
Twitter.
I don't have the emotional capacity. That's gonna be my thing. My friends are gonna hate. I don't have the emotional capacity for that right now. Excellent. Sharika said thumbs up. Thanks. Anand, I hope excellent work you are doing. Really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. So I'm so happy for this vibrant conversation. Trey, I appreciate you so much. Everyone, again, look at the caption there. It'll have the information for the tour, Black Girl in Love with Herself, and the book, and more about Trey. Thank you for joining us today. Trey, hold on one second.